There has been so much this morning already, hasn't there? My heart is full. I hope you have space for a little bit more, because I've got something to tell you. I'm excited to tell you this. Last night, I was at the youth conference over at Eston College. 276 people there from as far away as Dryden, Ontario, all the way up to BC somewhere. They all came together. They were singing. They were praising God. They were being prayed for. They were being prayed over. But I need to tell you this. Yesterday, 150 of those teens went out into Regina to tell people the good news of Jesus. The remaining people stayed back at the church and prayed for our nations. This is what's happening. It's what's happening in Regina today. It's happening at this very moment. And it's just so exciting. My heart is full. Man, you're quiet today. How come? There we go. Yeah. I think that's exciting. Well, we are in our... my name is Peter. I'm one of the pastors here. I'm glad that you're here. And for those of you who are watching from home, we're glad that you have joined with us. This is a great church full of broken people trying to find healing and knowing that healing comes through Christ Jesus. So welcome. I'm glad that you're here. We are in our Ezekiel series called It's Not Easy. Again, that's your cue to laugh. And it's okay, but we're just going to relax here. And it isn't easy. In fact, this is one of the books of the Bible that very often people just skip right over top of. Because they tried, they read it, it made no sense to them, they got frustrated, and they moved on to a different book of the Bible. But the thing is, it's not in the Bible to be ignored. It's not in the Bible to be not understood or even misunderstood. It's there so that we do understand it and we can learn from it. And so we're walking through this book and we are landing on particular passages and developing those passages. And for the other passages, I invite you to read along at home. And there's parts of this that are super complex. There's parts of this that... are visions, and you think, where are we going with this? And there's parts of this that are just plain weird. At the very beginning, I told you about how this book was written at the beginning of the series. It was written over a long period of time by a guy named Ezekiel, who was a priest, and then the Babylonians came and invaded Jerusalem, which is where he was from, and he got exiled. That means kicked out. And he's now far away, and he's watching what's happening when the leadership of Israel tears down everything that's been taught before and says, we now have some new gods. Go ahead and worship these gods. Pick whichever one you want, so long as it's these gods. There's all sorts of different idolatry that happens. There's all sorts of different stuff that happens that's sinful. Ezekiel is there, and he is bringing warnings from God, and he's bringing visions from God, and he is working exceptionally hard to show people just how much God hates the sin that's happening. And there's three different voices, or like three different segments of the book of Ezekiel. The first segment that we went through was, oh no, the bad guys are coming. The bad guys are named Babylonians. They're from Babylon. And then there's the second part, and it is, oh no, they're here, and it is so much worse than I even thought it would be. It's terrible. And today, we're going to enter into the third voice, or the third part of this, which is, but I can see an end coming to this. I can see what God is doing. I can see that there's hope when just not very long ago at all there was no hope at all. And one of the questions that I want you to be thinking about as I speak today is, what voice do you hear God speak in? Is it the voice of the bad guys are coming? Is it the voice of, oh no, it's bad, in fact, it's even worse than I had ever hoped? Or is it, I can see God at work? Because I need to tell you that all three of these were true in the life of Ezekiel. There's no correction here saying that's not the voice. That really was the voice. And when God spoke to Ezekiel, he spoke in those voices. But it's an interesting journey for us, and it's an interesting challenge for us to say, when we hear God speak, what do we hear God say, and what voice do we hear? We've learned a few things about God in this book. We've learned that God hates sin a lot. He hates the sin with all the hate that's ever hated. He hates it. Hates it. There is no hate more than God hates sin. I got to tell you, I really hate tomatoes. I hate them. Hate them. God hates sin more than I hate tomatoes. I don't know what it is that you hate, but God's approach to sin is more extreme than your approach to whatever that is. So we've learned that. We've also learned that God knows about all of the sin that there is. He knows about the stuff that's hidden in the dark. He knows about the stuff that nobody knows about. In fact, he knows it so well, it's like it's not hidden at all. He knows it front, back, top, and bottom. He knows what's happening, and we can't hide that. We've learned that. We have learned that God really hates it when leaders lead us away from him and put idols, whatever that idol may be, in our path and say, worship this. And our world is full of that. Our world is full of, take care of number one. Take care of yourself. Above all, take care of yourself. Or, we'll sanctify that a little bit, take care of your children. Above all else, take care of your children and walk away from the truth of who God is and walk into, make sure my children never experience discomfort at all about anything ever. Or we'll often hear this when someone says, and with grief in their voice, I don't know what I'm going to do when my kids move away. All I've ever been is a parent. What a warning in that. And going, no. God is greater. God is more. But that's one of the idols that we have. Money is huge, but you know about that one. Lust is huge, but you know about that one. We probably won't talk about that terribly openly. But God puts his finger right on top of it and says, lust is your God. Takes all sorts of forms. So we've learned that God really hates it when leaders say, hey, worship this. And it's not God. And we are made to worship, and we will worship something, even if it's just ourselves. We have also learned, and we have the benefit of being able to read more than just the book of Ezekiel, but we have learned about what happened when Jesus was born, when Jesus was ultimately crucified, but then he came back from the dead. And he took all of our sins on his shoulders, and he damned those sins to hell. And so we read the book of Ezekiel through the lenses of people who understand what Jesus has done, what Jesus is doing, and we look forward to what Jesus is going to do and is in the process of doing. And it profoundly changes the book of Ezekiel. And we also learn this. This is going to make some of you way uncomfortable. Good. Stew in your discomfort on this one. We have learned that we are highly favored by the King, by God. That we were chosen that God loves us, that God sees us, that God knows our name, knows what's going on in our lives, and says, come to me. Come to me. Come back to me. Doesn't say, you're so rotten, stay away. But says, come to me. Highly favored children of God. And we have also learned that we have taken that highly favoredness, we have taken all of those things and turned them and still used them to sin, which is the very thing God hates. This is where we're at in the book of Ezekiel. But today we are going to listen to the third voice. A major change in this book. And it's a change that we're going to go into and we're going to stay in till the end. And it is this. There's hope. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. And it's getting bigger. We're getting closer. That's the voice. One of my concerns throughout my life is how many people never quite get to where there's hope. There's people that will, in fact, there's entire denominations that will just stay in the we're rotten part. And they never actually get to the place where we say, but Jesus and what he did. So come with me. And we're going to look at the light that's coming. If you're following along, and please do be following along, chapter 34. And like each sermon, I'm not going verse by verse through this. It's just too much. You can't eat the entire buffet. You can only eat your plate. Although as a teenager, I tried. Give them this message from the sovereign Lord. What sorrow awaits you shepherds who feed yourself instead of your flock? Shouldn't shepherds feed their sheep? You drink milk, wear the wool, and butcher the best animals, but you let your flocks starve. You have not taken care of the weak. You have not tended to the sick or bound up the injured. You have not gone looking for those who have wandered away and are lost. Instead, you have ruled them with harshness and cruelty. At the very beginning of this chapter, we're told to give this message to the shepherds, or Ezekiel's told to give this message to the shepherds. When we think of shepherding, of shepherding as it is seen in the scriptures, we think about God. But you need to understand that when this was written, there were many, many leaders, religious leaders, that said, I am the shepherd. This is common vernacular. This is like someone saying, I'm in charge here. I am the shepherd. So when people tell those shepherds, they know which leaders are being spoken about. The other thing is, they live in a time where there are herds of sheep everywhere. And there are shepherds for those sheep. And so when you hear about a good shepherd, you know what you're talking about. Go get John. He's a good shepherd. If you could ever hire John, you should do it. He's the best shepherd. It would be like us talking about a manager. It might be about us talking about a pastor and saying, go get that one. Go get that manager. They're a good manager. Don't get that manager. Don't get that leader. They're lousy. They let the wolves come in. They lose half their flock every year. I don't know how they can afford to do it. And so this is a common language that's heard in this time. So give this message from the sovereign lords. And then he starts talking about really bad shepherds. And those sheep have been scattered like crazy. Now, he's not talking about sheep. He's talking about people. But everyone here understands what that looks like. Number one, they've seen real sheep be scattered. And number two, they themselves have been scattered. And when they look at their home in Israel, and they see that it doesn't look the way it's supposed to look, it doesn't look the way it used to look, now it looks very different. And God is saying, tell the leaders this. It's just very powerful words. They have wandered through the mountains and all the hills across the face of the earth, and no one has gone to search for them. Here's why. Because we will worship something. Oh, yes, we will. And those that say, I worship nothing, that's just them saying, I worship myself. It's my own desire. It's my own intention. It's my own resolve, my own white-knuckle grit teeth. Don't tell me what to worship. We're made to worship, like we're made to breathe. Anybody that says we don't breathe, prove it. It won't take long for me to prove myself right. We will worship. So we worship something. And when we don't worship God, we scatter. My father-in-law was a cowboy. He had cows. Mandy grew up on a farm with cattle. I didn't. It was very obvious. When I got to the farm, oh man, my learning curve was, who grew up around cows or animals? Who grew up around farms? Yeah, you guys are going to know this. The rest of you, just trust me. It didn't go well. My father-in-law drove a brown pickup, and he would drive into the fields when we needed to move from this pasture to that pasture. He would slap the side of the truck, and he'd say, come on, girls. And those cows, I'm telling you, this is true. You won't believe it. They followed the truck from this pasture into that pasture. And he said to me, run behind and get the stragglers. Now, my father-in-law was an athletic small man, much like myself. Run after them and get the stragglers. And he told me that the first time. I thought this is not going to go well. But there weren't any stragglers. I just walked behind them into the other fields. And then the day came when my father-in-law had passed away and he would never call the cows again. And I climbed into his truck, the same brown truck. And I slapped the side of the same brown truck. And I used his words. I said, come on, ladies. And they scattered. Never saw them again. I'm telling you, I tried. How many of you know what I'm talking about here? Come on, give me your hand here. Yeah. Now, everyone who doesn't know, look around. I'm not lying. They scattered. The speed that they scattered. You didn't think a cow could run that fast, but they said, not my shepherd. That might be the right truck, but I see the person. We scatter in an instant. We scatter so far. That's what's happened here. And there's this warning after warning and vision after vision that Ezekiel says to the people, saying in so many words, stop scattering. Come on back. Come on back. And in some of their minds, perhaps in yours as well, coming back means when I go back, I'm in trouble. There's a scolding. There's a spanking. There's a you're bad. And that voice plays out in your ear. You're sure you're going to hear it. In a few weeks, we're going to spend some time talking about that voice. But I want you to listen to the voice that we're going to hear here. And I want you to give authority to this voice. So stick with me. A little while later, we're gonna pick up in the second half of verse 8. You took care, this is speaking to the shepherds. You took care of yourselves and left the sheep to starve. Everybody say starve. We're going to need that word in a little while, so I want to make sure you heard it. You left your sheep to starve. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I now consider these shepherds my enemies, and I will hold them responsible for what has happened to my flock. I will take away their right to feed the flock. Do you understand? The judgment is not coming to the flock that has wandered. It is coming to the leaders that have pointed away from Christ, and who has not fed the flock, has not cared for the flock. I will stop them from feeding themselves. I will rescue my flock from their mouths. The sheep will no longer be their prey. That doesn't sound like a God who's there to smack you. That sounds like a God that invites you back in and says, I know your history is full of wandering. I understand your sin. I understand it all. If you remember back to the second sermon where we talked about there was that hole in the wall, that hidden hole, and God said to Ezekiel, start digging. That hole is actually a door. And then he opened the door and he said, do you see this? I see what's going on in here. This is the image of our hidden sin. Not so hidden. Right there to be seen. And he says, come back. Come back to me. Quit wandering. Come back. Come back. I am the shepherd. John 10, verses 11 to 18. I want you to listen to this. For those of you who can do this and still pay attention, I want you to close your eyes. For those of you who can't, keep them open. I want you to hear this. John 10, verses 11 to 18. This is the words of Jesus. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd sacrifices his life for the sheep. A hired hand will run when he sees a wolf coming. He will abandon the sheep because they don't belong to him. And he isn't their shepherd. And so the wolf attacks them and scatters the flock. The hired hand runs away because he's working only for the money and doesn't really care for the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my own sheep, and they know me. Just as my Father knows me, and I know the Father, so I sacrifice my life for the sheep. I have other sheep too. They are not in the sheepfold. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice, and they will be one flock with one shepherd. I have a friend named Myron. Where's Brett? Brett, you're in here somewhere. Brett's our drummer. He's one. Oh, there he is. Brett knows Myron. Myron is the best sheep guy I have ever met, and I've met more than one. When you go, I've been in Myron's house many times. He's got a farm, he's got sheep. When I go there, the sheep scatter. They don't know my voice. After a while, I kind of think they've heard my voice enough that they might know it, but they know I'm not Myron. And they scatter. And one of the more powerful things I've ever seen is when Myron walks into the same area where I am standing and the sheep come. Because the shepherd is there. And I have seen Myron fight off the wolves. The way he does it is by training really big dogs. And I'll save you the story, but rest assured the dogs came home. And the sheep were safe. I've seen this. And when I see Myron with his sheep, it makes me think of this story. And when I show up, the sheep scatter. They don't know what I'm about. They get nervous and they run. It's always funny. Whenever we talk about sheep with Myron or with his wife, they say, you know, that's not a compliment. Yeah, I know, but I've met me. I'm not the smartest guy out there sometimes, I promise. And I scatter and I run. But Jesus says, I am the good shepherd. Oh, there are shepherds aplenty, but I am the good shepherd. And the sheep know my voice, and I know them. What's your definition of being highly favored by the king? I'll tell you where mine starts. He knows my name. We have a king. He knows that there are people who live in Saskatchewan. Perhaps he's even heard of Regina. I don't know. But he doesn't know my name. But this shepherd knows my name. He knows what I've done, and he knows what you have. He knows what you have done, and he invites us back into his herd. Now listen to this. Remember when everyone said, what was the word we said? Hungry? Starved. Oh, that's different than hungry, isn't it? Listen to this. Verse 14, listen. Yes, I will give them food. I will give them good pasture land on the high hills of Israel. Remember, these are the people that have been scattered. You know where they aren't? Israel. But Jesus is, or what God is saying is, when you come back, I will give you food in Israel. That's where they want to be. This is the light at the end of the tunnel that they're seeing. They're seeing a return back to the place that I came from, the place that I want to be at. And when I get there, there is food. They will lie down in a pleasant place and feed in the lush pastures of the hills. Saskatchewan folk, hills are these things that go up and down. But here's one of the realities of the hills. If you are high up on the hill, you can see the wolves coming. It matters. It matters. I myself will tend the sheep and give them a place to lie down. In the peace, says the sovereign Lord, I will search for my lost ones who strayed away, and I will bring them safely home. I will bandage the injured. Do you remember when he said to the shepherds, you're not bandaging the injured. You're eating, but you're not feeding. I will bandage the injured, and I will strengthen the weak. But I will destroy those who are fat and powerful. I will feed them. Yes, feed them justice. Wow. Those are powerful words. The juxtaposition is pretty obvious. That means the difference. Juxtaposition is like black and white. It's like cold and warm. It's like starving and fed. It's like scattered and brought back together. The whole tone of the book of Ezekiel changes right here. We're now in the third voice, and we're going to stay there. So here's my question for you. Where do you find yourself in the story of Ezekiel? Do you hear the bad guys are coming? The dread? The doom? You find yourself saying, this world is heading to hell in a handbasket. You'll disregard what our Scottish Arabic pastor said. You'll disregard what we heard, what's happening at Eston Bible College right now. You'll disregard the very songs that we sang, the very words that came out of your mouth. You'll disregard that, and you'll hold to there's no hope. That's the first voice. But that is not where this book ends. Maybe you hear this one. It's the voice of anger. It's the voice of weakness. You ever notice that the angry person, you want to get away from them, but you're not hitching your cart to their horse. That's a farm joke right there. I figured I better include that because we talked about cows. You don't want to be with them. You don't want to follow them. They're angry. They're nasty. It's not nice, but you're not buying stock in their company. Is that the voice that you hear? And when you hear about God, what you really hear is a weak God that has lost control of the world. And there's a fear there, and you want to just say, God, why do you suck so bad? Is that the voice you hear? Or is it this third voice? And I'm going to invite the worship team to come back up. I'm going to describe this third voice to you. And for some of you, this is the challenge issued to you. But understand, this is a challenge that comes from the King, comes from God. Is it the voice of the protective shepherd? The voice that says, I know, I've heard, I saw, I was there with you when. Come back. Don't run. Come back. I will protect you. I will bandage your wound. Think about a little kid that has an owie and goes to mom or goes to dad and says, fix the owie. I wonder how big that wound is. Our call to God is the same. Fix the owie. Do you feel alone? Feel like nobody knows? Nobody could know you. In fact, if they did know you, they would leave you. Maybe your life is punctuated by people's departure. Everyone you loved leaves. And so you sit in silent isolation. And the shepherd says, I know, come back to the flock. Come back to the high hills of Israel where you will eat and be protected and your wounds will be healed. I want to be very clear on something. I know that church hurts people. And it may be that I have been that person that hurts people. Maybe it was someone else. I am a leader here. I know when this talks about shepherds, it is in part talking about me. And if the church has hurt you, first of all, I want to say to you sincerely from the bottom of my heart, I'm sorry, and I ask for your forgiveness. And I also want to say this, you can follow me so long as I follow God, but in the moment I quit following God, you keep following God. He is the good shepherd. This is not about me. It's not about the rest of the pastoral staff here or anywhere else. This is about God, the good shepherd. Come back. Come back. That is the third voice. And I hope you come back in the following Sundays, because that third voice changes your reality.
What a great message from Peter this morning as he just shared the voice of God and what God is saying and calling out to all of us. And that question, what voice are you listening to, is a very, very important question. I encourage you all to, when you get home, read Ezekiel chapter 34, verse 25 to 31. It's an incredible passage to read, especially after knowing about everything this nation of Israel had gone through and the thoughts that God had abandoned them in exile. And just read through that. Read through that each morning, read through that each evening, and listen for the voice of God. And there's 4 words that really stuck out to me as I read that today. First of all, God is giving us peace. God provided his son Jesus for you. Because of his death and resurrection, we can have peace with God. Secondly is protection. God promises protection again for Israel, and he promises that for us too. Now that doesn't always mean safety, but he promises us his protection. God also promises us provision. And in this passage you will see this. But the best thing that God promises is his presence. The promise of his presence is so important for us. And when we receive Jesus, we have the constant presence of the Holy Spirit with us no matter where we go, to guide, to teach, to lead, to convict, and to care for us. And listen to the end of Ezekiel chapter 34. Verse 30 to 31 says, "Then they will know that I, the Lord their God, am with them, and that they, the house of Israel, are my people, declares the sovereign Lord. You, my sheep, the sheep of my pasture, are my people, and I am your God, declares the sovereign Lord." Doesn't that sound similar to that passage in Psalm? "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures, and he leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul." So listen to that voice, the voice of your shepherd this week as you go. We invite you out to 242 this week. If you have some time on Wednesday night, we would love to see you there. Have a good week, everyone.